And guys, in this next news story, a Stoke-on-Trent shooter gunned down a man who was walking into a bookies and no one knows why. Jesse Dyche ambushed a man in Stoke-on-Trent's alleyway and gunned him down. The man had left his home and was on his way to the shop on the bookies when he came face to face with the gunman. He was shot in the leg and left needing 3 bouts of surgery. The pre-planned operation saw Dyche team up with his partner in crime, Stephen Thorogood, before sourcing a getaway car wearing balaclavas and having passports ready to check into a hotel overnight. The men were driven away from the scene by the getaway driver, Ethan Beech, but no one still knows why the shooting happened at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday afternoon last August. Now, 27-year-old Dyche of Stoke-on-Trent and 45-year-old Thorogood of Bentley have both been jailed for 9 years at Stoke-on-Trent Crown Court. They had both pleaded guilty to causing GBH with intent of possessing a firearm with intent to endanger life. Beech from Smallthorne has been jailed for 20 months after he admitted assisting an offender. The court heard the victim was walking when the drama unfolded. Prosecutor Nick Tatlow said he walked into a street and saw a white BMW pulled up. He went to walk around it. He recognised the woman in the vehicle and greeted her. Another man noticed a Ford Focus parked with 2 men in it. He saw them pull out an item he thought was a gun. They got out and went to a Vauxhall estate car which drove into another road, and he thought the behaviour was odd and took photographs of this vehicle. The victim saw the barrel of a gun pointed towards him and he said, "What the fuck are you doing?" The man with the gun followed him around the car. He did not speak. He kept it pointed at the man. The victim said, "What do you think you're doing, bruv?" The man with the gun pointed at the man's leg and shot him, causing him to fall to the ground. He then ran off. CCTV footage showed Dyche carrying a firearm, and Dyche shot the man in the leg before carrying the carrier bag previously carried by the victim. Thorogood ran after him. They ran to the Vauxhall and were driven away, and when they returned to the car, the gun was in Dyche's hand. Nobody knows what was in that carrier bag that was taken. The Vauxhall had been stolen, it was on false plates and it was found abandoned nearby. And Dyche and the woman were arrested in Shrewsbury the following day, and Beech and Thorogood were arrested a week later. Dyche has apologised to his victim. In mitigation, his solicitor said he acted entirely out of character. In mitigation for Thorogood, the solicitor conceded it was planned, albeit short-lived incident. She said Thorogood did not have an absolute control of the weapon. She said the gun was fired once and added there was no suggestion of any long-term consequences for the victim. And the representative for Beech said his client was 18 at the time and in a different category to the other 2 defendants. He'd spent 120 days in isolation in custody after being attacked on a number of occasions. He spent the equivalent of an 18-month sentence in custody. He said either he has served sufficient time to be released today, or you can make him the subject of a community order to give him continued support. However, the judge, Michael Maher, jailed the 3 defendants, said it is unclear why you did this. I simply do not know what your grievance was. It was very clear you disguised yourself on the stolen vehicle in order to cover your tracks, and you recruited a getaway driver. The victim was utterly oblivious to what was about to happen. And in this next story, 2 County Lines dealers have been jailed following an investigation by Kent Police's County Lines and gangs teams. Ashley Morris was sentenced to 7 years in jail on Wednesday the 5th of June 2024 following a week-long trial at Winchester Crown Court. He had denied charges of being concerned in the supply of crack and heroin but was found guilty by a jury. Morris was convicted following a lengthy investigation by Kent Police's County Lines and gangs team. In November 2022, officers became aware of a mobile phone number which was being used to sell crack across the Medway towns. Morris was identified as being in control of the Danny line, and on Wednesday the 2nd of March 2023, officers executed a drugs warrant at an address in Rochester. Morris wasn't at the address, but police did find £5,000 in cash, a large knife, and a mobile phone which was believed to be linked to the drug dealing. Dwayne Stevenson from Gillingham was arrested inside the property and later charged with being concerned with the supply of heroin and crack, acquiring criminal property and possession of cannabis. He admitted charges and was sentenced at Maidstone Crown Court and was handed a 20-month jail term which was suspended for 2 years. As part of an investigation, officers stopped a vehicle in Strood, and inside the vehicle was a man called by the names of George Bradley was arrested, and officers found a mobile phone linked to the drugs. Bradley was later charged with 1 count of being concerned with the supply of crack, 1 count of being concerned with the supply of cocaine, and 1 count of being concerned with the supply of heroin. He was jailed for 2 years and 6 months. Officers continued to try and locate Morris, who was actively evading police, and on Tuesday, the 5th of September, he was arrested inside a property in Maidstone and later charged. Investigating officer, Detective Inspector Michael Nolan of Kent Police's County Lines and Gangs team said Morris was responsible for running the Danny line, which supplied Class A drugs to vulnerable people within the Medway towns. He recruited people into the network in order to distance himself from the criminality, but we were able to carry out a thorough investigation and ensure that he faced the consequences of being involved. The team continues to work hard to disrupt and dismantle any drugs lines, and we are always alert to new lines when they start offering Class A drugs for sale, with it only being a matter of time before we identify who's behind the number. We will then ensure that they are apprehended and swiftly brought to justice. And in this next news story, a middleman from the UK who acted as a go-between for suppliers of cocaine and heroin worth £360 million has been jailed. Shakil Razak was jailed for 26 years for his role as a leading member of a criminal network of drug dealers who had suppliers in Turkey. An investigation by the Eastern Regional Special Operations Unit found that Razak was responsible for sourcing and logistics for an organised crime group acting as a middleman between a supplier in Turkey and other UK-based dealers. Detectives established he was behind the EncroChat handle Zero Alliance, which he used to organise colossal amounts of Class A to be flown into the country. Messages on Razak's phone showed he was involved in plans to bring shipments totaling around 5.5 tons of Class A drugs. If the drugs had been successfully imported and broken down into street deals, the potential value would have been more than £361 million, police said. Messages also linked Razak to a separate shipment of around 150 keys of heroin, which was seized in a joint operation by the ERSOU and Border Force in 2020, one of the biggest UK drug seizures that year. Razak from Luton worked closely with a man goes by the name of Denny Jelly, who had contacts abroad willing to hide the drugs within hollowed-out pallets and shipments heading to the country. Jelly was previously jailed for 10 years. There was another man, Suleiman Bawa, who used his cargo company as a front to import drugs into the UK via air freights, and he had already been jailed for 7.5 years. The trio had used the encrypted communications tool EncroChat to plan their activities in an attempt to evade law enforcement. However, EncroChat servers were seized under Operation Venetic, which uncovered thousands of messages exchanged by criminals. Following a 2-week trial in March, Razak was found guilty of conspiracy to import and conspiracy to supply Class A. He also admitted twice to breaching a serious crime prevention order and was found guilty of a third breach relating to a previous conviction for heroin importation. Detective Constable Hayley Kendall from the ERSOU's Regional Organised Crime Unit said this sentencing is a culmination of years-long police operation which has resulted in the jailing of 3 men looking to make vast sums from selling Class A. Razak coordinated the group's activities with messages clearly showing his role in bringing the drugs into the country and plans for onward distribution. The conversation also clearly showed he paid no regard to the harm the substances might cause. The fact that he was on license for importing Class A while committing these offences shows he's a career criminal, and it's positive that he'll be spending a significant spell behind bars. So guys, there's a number of stories coming out from the streets of the UK. It's your boy GT. Keep it locked, keep it real.